It really frustrates me, that sometimes God is painted and portrayed as someone who wants to restrict us and impose stuff on us and enslave us. And we have to accept that sometimes those of us who are Christians and those of us who are in churches have painted that picture and portrayed that image by how we've behaved and how we've treated people. But that really frustrates me because God is the great liberator, the great freedom bringer. He sent Jesus to free us from the guilt and the condemnation that we suffer from and that weighs us down and that would throw us off balance. We don't have to be trapped between either denying our guilt and distancing ourselves from it and living a lie and being defined by it. For what the law couldn't do, God did by sending his Son to be like us and to be a sin offering. But what does that mean? What that means is that Jesus took all of the sin and all of the guilt associated with it and all of the weight of that, and he lugged it up a hill so we don't have to. And he allowed it to be nailed to a cross with him and to die there with him. He took what we deserve upon himself. And that wasn't just our sin, our mess-ups. It was even better than that. It was the condemnation associated with our sin. You see, the innocent Son of God took the weight of our guilt and the condemnation that goes with it so we could be free, so we could put it down. At the cross, something was condemned, but not you. God condemns sin and not us. And that means that God has restored us to a guiltless, free relationship with him. And we are guilty because we do mess up, we do sin, but we are not condemned. So is this all really a big deal? Isn't this all just theological words? I wish Paul were here. I wish Paul were here today and we could ask Paul, a man who had so much to be guilty about, whether this was really a big deal. When we don't have to lug this weight around through the rest of our lives, it will feel like a really big deal. It is a really big deal for you and for those who are around you who get the impact of you. When you step into this thing that Jesus has done for you, 4 things happen. Number 1, you forfeit the right to condemn yourself because you are not yours to condemn. When you step into this freedom that God offers, guilt doesn't get to be the boss of you anymore because you have a brand new boss in God and he says you are not condemned. When that voice of shame wells up inside of us, we can say, yes, I know I'm guilty. Yes, I know I messed up, but I am not condemned. I have lost the right to condemn myself because my freedom has been bought at a great price. Number 2, your guilt will remind you, but it will not define you. When we step into this, our guilt will remind us, but it won't define us. Yes, we did it. Yes, we messed up, but that won't define us because we aren't what we did. And God condemned sin, but God did not condemn you. So when you're reminded of your worst sin, your worst guilt, it can be a pivot point, not to condemn yourself, but to look up in gratitude to God. One of the reasons we love to sing songs to and about God around our church in what we call our sung worship is because they give us the opportunity to say thank you for what he has done. Thank you for taking my sin and my guilt and my shame and dealing with it. Number 3, you forfeit the right to condemn others because that would make you a hypocrite. This is the third implication of stepping into this freedom that Jesus offers and that God offers. Those who bring their own failures and mess-ups to God and find love and not condemnation, forgiveness and not judgment, should find it almost impossible to judge or condemn anyone else. And finally, number 4, the fourth implication of all of this, you are free to make restitution without excuses. It's not enough to face what we've done. It's not enough to bring it to God and to ask him to forgive us and then think that everything is good. That's not what God wants from us in response to what he has done. We need to go back to the people we've hurt without excuses, stories, denials, and narrative distances. When we refuse to deal with our guilt in a healthy way, it weighs us down, rather like a rucksack full of bricks. When we try to deny or distance ourselves from it, it weighs us down, When we allow it to define us, it weighs us down. Our shame and our guilt become the boss of us, and we drag that through life. Instead, God invites us to step into the freedom that he offers, because his Son took the sin and condemnation on himself, and we can put it down.